Why did you think, if you believed the affair had resumed, that was relevant to your concern about the lieutenant, about the Attorney General and Mr. Paul?
Because it answered one of the questions that I kept struggling with is, why would General Paxton jeopardize all this great work that we had been doing at in the Office of Attorney General? Why would he be engaged in these activities on behalf of one person? I mean, all these different things. And by this time, we knew he had hired Mr. Kamek. Why would he do this against his advice of his the people who he trusted to run his office, including me? And it answered that why question.
Had you become aware by that time that the woman he was having the affair with had been hired by Mr. Paul?
I learned it that week.
I'm sorry. Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled. Continue.
Thank you.
I learned that this person had been hired by Mr. Paul that week.
And why was that relevant to you?
Because it answered the question, why is he engaging in all these activities? And it was like...
Made on behalf of Mr. Paul?
On behalf of Mr. Paul. Why is he engaged in this? I mean, it seemed to me he was under undue influence. At times I thought, is he being blackmailed? I mean, this was so unlike what I experienced with him for 4 years. And this was part of it. There may have been more, there may have been others, but this was certainly part of it.
Mr. Mateer, did you ultimately resign?
I did.
When did you resign?
I resigned on that Friday, October 2nd.
And I believe we have asked before, let me make sure I'm right, you did not sue and you do not have any suit pending against either the Attorney General's office or Mr. Paxton or anyone out of this. Is that correct?
I do not.
If you go back to the things, what is your testimony as to whether you learned a lot more that gave you concern without going into what it was on the 29th as all of these deputies began to compare notes? What is your testimony as to the very reluctant conclusion you came to?
I mean, by that time, the 29th, because the next day is when we go to the FBI and DOJ. By that time, I concluded that Mr. Paxton was engaged in conduct that was immoral, unethical, and I had a good faith belief that it was illegal.
What was your thought process as to what you would believe would happen if you did this? What did you believe might happen to you and the others if you did come forward?
I mean, I knew by that time that my tenure as first assistant was coming to a quick end. So I knew that there would be, anytime someone stands up, that there could be consequences. So I knew I was in the process of leaving the office.
You, of course, were not here and did not hear the opening statements in this case, did you?
I did not.
Let me ask you this. How long, by the September the 29th and 30th, had you become aware that different members of the top level administrators in this department had in different ways been trying to stop the Attorney General from helping Mr. Paul?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Did you have a thought process in your own mind as to why you needed to go finally to law enforcement?
I felt like we had been trying to protect Mr. Paxton. On several occasions, I'd gone to him and really he had become, he was my boss. He'd become a friend. I cared for him. I cared for Senator Paxton. And I wanted him, I think in one of the memos I say, come clean. I wanted to help.
What?
Come clean.
Microphone.
Come clean.
Yeah.
I wanted to, my job, I feel one of the jobs of the first assistant is to protect, in addition to running the office, was to protect the attorney general. And quite frankly, I obviously failed at that. But I came to the conclusion that Mr. Paul had enabled Mr. Paxton, and despite my efforts, the other deputies' efforts, we couldn't protect him because he didn't want to be protected.
As you ultimately made your decisions, and as you have learned and things have happened soon, did you change your mind as to whether or not General Paxton was simply being blackmailed or something else? Did you ultimately make a conclusion of what you believed reluctantly about the conduct of the Attorney General?
Yeah, again, in the end, I reached the conclusion that Mr. Paul enabled him to engage in the conduct that Mr. Paxton engaged in.
What is your opinion as to whether or not the level of responsibility the Attorney General had?
Ultimately, the Attorney General was responsible for his conduct.